Now I'd like to introduce you to figure carving, carving the human figure. I decided that maybe a standing figure would be a nice carving for a beginner because the upward look of the head. When a head is looking up, it's easier to access the eyes, nose, all the basic features of the face than if I had him with his chin tucked down, looking down at his toes. The feet I kept together so that it eliminates carving in between the legs. I tucked the elbow in as opposed to having the elbow sticking out. So there are basic things that I wanted to do that make this a simple character for a beginner to start with. But I kind of like strong forms without being overly exaggerated. This carving was done out of northern white pine, the wet wood that we had talked about earlier in the wood portion. So I'm going to use another piece of wet white pine for this guy. Now, I'm laying the piece onto the block of wood, but what I want is to utilize the strength of the grain for where I need the most detail, which is in the face. If you look at the top of this carving, he wasn't just haphazardly laid on this piece of wood. I did this intentionally. I'm looking at the grain rings, and I want the rings coming into the face because that's going to give me the greatest amount of support for eyelids, nostrils, lips, ears, fingers, and so on. If the grain was going horizontal across this, as I made a stop cut here and here, because the grain is going this way, it would be easily popped out. But because the grain rings are swinging right into that face, you have all that strength of that grain holding all the little details that I need the strength for. And you'll see the rings are going like this. So if I have my pattern laid out this way, all these rings are coming in to support the facial detail, and if I had it coming this way, all the rings are going to be going across the face, and the tip of the nose could easily be popped off because the grain is going that direction. Now I'm going to trace my outline on the block of wood so I could take it to the bandsaw. There's the outline that I'm going to go and cut on the bandsaw. Now you could start with a bandsawed cutout, or you can start with something that has already been cut out and roughed out, which is called a rough out. A lot of carvers, myself included, have done carvings that we used as seminar class project. This is a rough out of this carving, and they're done out of basswood. You could buy these rough outs, which usually come with 4 photoed views of the finished carving, so you know what it looks like from the left side and the right side and the front and the back. Now this has all the major elements already established for you so that you know this is the tail, this is the curve of the tail, this is the back of the tail, this is the little mushroom that's on the side, and so on. So a lot of the major components are already found and given to you. With a bandsawed blank, you have to find them on your own. Now we have to find some of the major elements. So I want to try to start to find where the shoulder is going to be. Okay, and the bag of bread is going to be somewhere around in here. We have the flip of the jacket rolling down here. We have a dip for the elbow. And this is the hat. The face is going to be offset a little bit. This is going to get moved out of here. Start rounding off the hat area. Left foot in front of the right foot. So then I'm going to knock out this corner here. I'm going to basically hand hold this one. And I'm just going to start to rough out some of the areas around the pencil lines and reduce some of the bulk so it's going to be a little more comfortable for me to hold. I'm going to start with my rough out tool, which is the 11 gauge and a 15 millimeter. Now, I carve with what I call a 3-point contact method, and holding the carving in my left hand is one point of contact with the carving. Resting my hand, the palm of my hand on the carving is my second point of contact, and the third point is actually where the chisel is making a cut. So there's 3 points. So I have a lot of control on the blade, even though I'm carving towards myself, which I prefer to do it this way because I can see where I'm cutting, as opposed to carving away. I can't really see the cut as easily in this direction as I can with it coming towards me. But because I'm not using any pulling motion, the carving is fairly safe and very controlled. And I'm taking thin chips. It is easier to make 3 thin chips than it is to make a big old chip. So you're using much less force. And I'm going sideways across the grain because sideways, the grain is always about the same. And I could be very efficient carving sideways with the grain. And I'm going to go all the way around the carving. I'm not just going to concentrate on this right side of the carving without addressing the left side. So I'm going to spin it around, and this is just how I go about roughing a carving out to make sure that everything is going to be approximately where I want it. While I'm holding the carving, I get to view it in various different perspectives. If I'm working on a carving I'm staring at the front of it all the time, I might not see indiscrepancies in symmetry or sizes of hands and sleeves and stuff until all of a sudden I turn it around and I was like, I see it in a new viewpoint now, something that was kind of going askew and I didn't see it, all of a sudden becomes very apparent when I look at it in a different point of view. Oh, I just got back from buffing up my chisel. You always want to go make sure that the chisel is at peak performance, especially when you're hand carving. You know, if I was banging with a mallet, I might become a little complacent and let it sit for a little bit, but holding it in the hand and roughing this out, I want that edge to be just perfect. So you take the work out of carving as much as you can by keeping your tools sharp, finding the best way to carve the wood, which right now I'm still going sideways. And I'm going basically horizontal against the vertical grain. And that's what it's doing is it's basically slicing between the rings. See, if you see the rings on the bottom here, when the tool goes through it, it actually splits the rings. And you're just kind of looking at it, see how it's coming along. See, you're starting to get one knee forward and one knee back. Now I need a knee pretty much on the same level as this knee. So I'll leave this alone and just sort of angle back somewhat. So this is a given, this is a reference point. So from this reference point, it gives me an idea where the next knee is going to be. So if you're confused about where elements are on your carving, like when we first cut this out, there really wasn't a whole lot of information there. But I look at the first given is your cutout. Okay, the carving can't be any bigger, any higher, any fatter than it is right now. So from that point, you look at what sticks out the farthest. Got a jacket, got a jacket. Got a sway in the back. Well, we don't have a sway in the back yet, but we will. The mustache and nose are the farthest out point on the face. So if this is the farthest out point of the face, that means everything has to be pushed back. Now I'm using my knife in this particular part of the inside of the elbow because this is kind of a wide chisel and I don't want to mess up any lump I might want to leave for a mustache or a cheekbone, so I can get the knife in here much easier. Yeah, this technique of chunking, it's my own special technique. Nobody chunks like I do. But what it does is it just is a quick way of outlining the inside of the leg without coming back and making two cuts. I'm just consolidating a cut and coming in and popping. And what it's doing is leaving a ledge, and the ledge is just going down. Okay, you see that we really got him quite down to size in fairly short order. The major elements are here now. I have a nice position for the face, width-wise. The arm is in a proper position. The legs are kind of where I want them to be. I got rid of a lot of the bulkiness. Now it's starting to look like a figure. It's starting to take on a shape. But see, it's all being done as a single sculpture. You don't want to get caught up with just doing the face and say, okay, I'm just going to carve the face and get the face set because that's the hardest part of the carving, and then if that works out, I'll worry about the rest of it. Well, you might have a face that's way too big for the body because you didn't do them together. They weren't refined in sequence, and it didn't come together as a whole. So by working on it bit by bit and, top to bottom, front to back, right to left, you start bringing the whole thing down and it evolves as one. After I've gotten this carving this far, I'm going to set aside my large chisel, and now I'm going to start refining a little bit more with the same curvature gouge, going back with my number 11 gouge, but in a 10 millimeter. And you'll see it's just about half of what I was using for a rough out tool. To start getting some of the face roughed in, some of the deeper cuts for the bend of the elbow, the under cuts for the jacket, this tool will be just fine. If you notice that most of the carving that I've done so far in this DVD, I've only used number 11 gouges and a couple of the V-tools. I have drawers full of other chisels, but I like to be very efficient with the tool that I have in my hand. So with a deep gouge like this number 11, not only can I make a deep cut with it, but I also can ride the side of the chisel and make a shallow cut with the same tool. So it eliminates my having to have more tools on the table and trying to decide which tool I'm going to use next for whatever purpose I'm looking at. This is a very universal tool. This cut that I'm making now is giving me sort of the bottom of the mustache, because I guess he's going to have a mustache. So do you see a mustache just sort of ghostly being in there? If you look at it, you can see that this is the chin, this is the tip of the nose, this is the eyes, the cheekbones are going to be right in here. But you start seeing the structure of a face. Okay, you start seeing him? He's coming. Okay. I'm going to switch off to my 11 gouge and a 4 millimeter, create a little bit more of the bridge of the nose, and also a mound for the eye. And I say a mound because that's what an eye structure is made of. That's its basic shape, is a mound, a half a pea shape, a pitcher's mound. It's rounded from the inside corner where the tear duct is, where the corner of the eye and the bridge of the nose come together, and it's also rounded from that corner and rounded over to the outside edge of the eyeball. So I don't make a concave shape with a chisel. I'm making a convex shape. So I'll grab my knife and just take the tip of the blade and come down into the bridge and then make a quick dash up the tip. And this is giving me a really nice ski slope kind of, that's what I refer to as a ski slope nose, so sort of a Bob Hope kind of nose. I need some eyebrows. I can't evaluate anything until I have something to evaluate, so I'm just putting something here to look it over and see if this is going to work or if it isn't. And if it isn't, then I'll change something. Because I'm just making this face up. I'm not trying to make a portrait of anybody. I just want a nice little elderly gentleman's face. See, I'm rolling the chisel on my thumb to get the slicing motion of the chisel. And it's just a handy dandy little cut to get used to making. Okay, I want to start giving him a jawline. I'm going to take the detail knife and just do a couple more cuts on the face, and then I'm going to move on to some more of the body. Chin's a little heavy looking, a little boxy, so I want to reduce that. Okay, now the hat is really kind of large for the size of the face now. We kind of brought the face down. I'm going to carve the hat to sort of fit him a little better. Okay, we have a curve for the upper area, and I put this pretty much intentionally in because this gives me a lot of access for the hair and the forehead area. So if I want to do some undercutting, I'm not going to have this brim of this hat sticking out and being somewhat fragile. I'll put an undercut, and that just gives me access to the ear. So things are done not only to give an effect, but also to help me get into a tight area that if I had the hat come down, then I'd have a lot of undercutting to try to reach the ear, and it would have been more difficult than it needed to be. So again, you see the nice curvature and the liveliness that the brim is contributing to the carving. And then a high spot. And I'm just going to pop a couple of these extra ones in here just to kind of show you quickly how the whole thing, with just a few simple cuts, creates such a wonderful rhythm in the line of the hat. Now, had this hat just been straight across, it wouldn't have added that much character, but if the character is old, been around a while, a little down on his luck or whatever, he would not have had a brand new hat. So the hat adds to the character of the piece, not just in the rhythm, but also in the authenticity of what he actually would be wearing to a park. And I'm just going to sweep this all the way up. There's no point in putting another one in here, so I'll just elongate this curve right up to the brim or the front of the hat. Now, I don't want to make this very thin right now, so I'm going to leave it thick, because when I'm handling it, I don't want it to be very fragile. I'm going to hollow some of this out, leaving a little high spot right where the collar is, but also I want to hollow some more of the back to really thrust him back. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about where I want to have the curves and the folds in the bottom of the jacket. And again, we're going to go with the same curvature and basically do exactly what we did up here. And then this curve is going to be echoed in this curve, and we're going to have balance of shape and balance of rhythms. When you're looking at a figure like this, it might look more complicated, but you see all it is just several deep cuts, and the deeper the cut, the more dynamic the piece becomes. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to do it, it's just a thought to do it. You see, it didn't take very long to add those folds, and I think it gives a lot of character to the carving. Let's do a little bit more on the feet and get those on the legs and kind of get them just close to being down to size where we want them. Now we have the right leg slightly in front of the left leg, so I need to take some of the back off the right side. Okay, so you start to see how the folds just bag and sort of sag. The upper eyelids are drawn, Now because I'm right-handed, I start on the outside of the eye and pull it towards myself. So I'm going to start on the inside corner, angling slightly into the eyeball. I'm creating a triangular support of wood behind the eyelid to give it support. And then I'm using my thumb as a fulcrum to start to round the eyeball off. Okay, now I'm going to do the lower eyelid using the tip of the blade and my thumb to help push it along. I create the lower eyelid. Now I have my stop cut. You see those chips just come right off, and I don't have to go back in and clean it up. So we have a nice crisp eye now. I'm going to sort of give him a Popeye kind of smile. And then soften the chin. And the ear is primarily a shape of a question mark. This is a fairly nice deep stop cut. Okay, so my ear is outlined, and then I'll come in and back cut it. Okay, here's some of the inner workings of the ear. So I'll make just a stop cut, and it's just kind of in the middle. So I'm not even going to bother about drawing it in, but we'll just put this in. The 15V tool in the 6mm is a perfect tool for doing the outside of the lapel. And I'm going to lay the tool on its side so I can undercut and get a shadow underneath the collar. And while I'm here, I might as well undercut the hat and the collar area also. Now we don't want any flat spots on this carving, so the top of the hat is also going to look a little disheveled. And I'll take the number 11 gouge in the 10mm and just put some hollows. I'm going to make a line where the sleeve ends. And what I want to do is just hold a little bag of bread, just a nondescript kind of bag of bread. Basically what's going to be a rectangle and then a square. If you have a finger and it's so wide, it should be so deep. Not only do you have it, each finger the width that you need it, but you're also going to have the depth. So I have to go just a little bit farther to make a nice round finger. So I'm taking away from the top of the bag to give myself some room for the fingers, but I also want to leave the bottom of the bag a little bit heavy so that it looks like there's some bread down in there. And put a deep stop cut. This is going to give a nice deep shadow. To the fingers. And again, it goes to the gesture of the carving, to make the carving look comfortable and relaxed and content doing whatever he's doing. Little things like this, treatment of the position of the hand that's holding the bag, just add to the overall feel of the carving. And outline the bottom of the jacket, and we'll outline the bottom of the sleeve. So this is all going to start to get somewhat finished. Okay, I want a deep stop cut where the sleeve and chest area are. I'll use the V tool to create some deep creases in the elbow. Usually 2 V cuts will do it. So I have one here, and I'll put another one right in here. I need a V cut to separate the back of the legs, and then some V creases to show the bend of the back of the knee. But I'm going to use the V tool, and I'm going to underscore the cuff of the pants. And then we're just going to carve some, just a generic shoe. You can give them old work boots or tattered shoes, holes in them. So then I'm going to start to lay out my fingers like this, and then I'm going to hollow this. This is just a simple hand. And that's, you know, just a basic hand. Okay, so this is a nicely carved basic hand showing the most necessary parts of the fingers and hands. Gentleman's hand sticking up in the air by itself, it looks a little questionable about exactly what's going on. And he's going to be feeding a pigeon, so I carved a pigeon, and the pigeon could go right here. You could make one with the wings open and have them landing. You could carve 3 or 4 of them, have one here, one up on the hat, one down on the sleeve. It would look really nice. And all you do is just drill a little hole, stick a toothpick in it, drill a hole where you want it, and glue them on, and he'll sit. I'm going to use the little 16V tool in the 3mm, and I'm going to start creating some curving wisps of hair. Just like that. Now the eyebrows. Okay, the mustache. Bushy. That's good. Now I'm just going to go back and clean up a couple areas that may still have some uncut fibers, some chips that didn't quite come off, some places that might look a little ratty. You know, I'm just going to give it a quick once over. Get ready to paint them up. My little park guy is all set to thinking about painting them. And I'm going to use oil paints and oil-based stains. And I think what I want to do is we're going to do some flesh tones, probably blondish, brownish, dirty blonde kind of hair, sort of a brownish hat. I think a red jacket would look really neat, and then some brown pants. When you start painting a character like this, you have to kind of think of a color scheme. So what is the color scheme going to be, and how are the colors going to react to make the painting complement the carving? So you don't want the painting to overpower or detract from it. You want the painting to basically put the whipped cream right on top.